Hi, I'm Justina Chung from Bessemer Venture Partners based in London. And just a couple words of introduction. We are a global venture fund investing in the very early stages to growth equity in companies you may have come across and used like Shopify and Toast and Procore, Service Titan. We're also active investors in AI. So we've dedicated $1 billion of our most recent fund to AI native companies, including frontier model provider Anthropic, where Ryan works at, and then also companies like Perplexity, Abridge, and DeepL. And so today, I am delighted to have with me Ryan O'Halloran, who is a good friend and leads go-to-market for Anthropic in EMEA and Europe. Ryan has worked at Stripe and at Airwallex prior to this, leading enterprise sales, and he is doing the same for Anthropic today. So thank you for taking the time and coming over to Copenhagen. So maybe, just to set the context for the audience here, tell us about Anthropic's mission. What is it that you're building, and tell us about the European journey to date.
Yeah, so first and foremost, thank you all for being here. I know there's a bunch of amazing talks going on, so thank you for carving out a few minutes to come and listen to us. I'm also very, very excited to be in Copenhagen. I've been in the UK now for about 6 years, and I moved a week before the lockdown. And so Copenhagen was my first trip out of London, so it holds a special place in my heart when I do get to come back here. But quick background on Anthropic. I'm actually just curious, maybe a quick show of hands. How many of you know who Anthropic is, have heard of Claude? Amazing. And keeping your hands up, how many, put your hands down, but keep it up if you have used Anthropic or Claude and you're using it in your day-to-day.
Great, this is a very tech-savvy audience.
This makes my life much easier. So Anthropic, in most simplistic terms, is building out safe and reliable AI. So we have a variety of products, and I like to think about it kind of in a three-pronged offering. You have our API, you have Claude Code, or you have Claude for Work / Claude for Enterprise. And we offer a variety of products across EMEA. Our journey to date, I think, is really quite interesting. I think a lot of people forget just how early we are in this AI journey. Little over 4 years ago, Anthropic did not exist. So our founding team started Anthropic with a key goal of building AI for trust and safety and reliable. We actually launched our go-to-market function in the UK in February this year. So last year we had 0 go-to-market folks. This year we had 3 in February, and we're actually hiring over 100 individuals before the end of this year. So if anyone wants to help me hire, I would greatly appreciate that, because it's quite a large number. We have offices now in London, in Dublin, in Zurich, and we're expanding quite quickly. We work with a variety of companies, so enterprise companies like AstraZeneca, Novo Nordisk, BMW, down to startups like Lovable, Dust, Gravy, Granola, quite a few different companies on that spectrum.
Great, and maybe I'd like to also start with something a little more personal. So you worked at Stripe and Airwallex at a time when these companies were in just phases of hypergrowth. And things are going well. They're probably going to IPO in the next couple of years. Your stock options are in the money. What made you sit there and say, okay, there's something coming up? And out of all the opportunities in the world, what made you join Anthropic?
Yeah, we were just laughing. So Stripe has a booth over there, and I walked by, and I was like, it's kind of a weird feeling not knowing anyone at a company you spent 6 years of your life. I joined back when there were about 200 employees, and I kind of tell everyone, Anthropic is doing things in a quarter that Stripe used to do in a year, and that's not a slight on Stripe at all. Stripe is an incredibly fast-moving company. It's just this industry is moving so quickly. And so when I was looking for my next opportunity, I spent about a decade in fintech. There were 3 core things that I was looking for: product, people, and values. And Anthropic touched on those 3 things. So one, the product, having that core mission of safety, reliability, ethical AI was very important to me. I really aligned with the founders on their mission and their values. The people. So a lot of Stripe people actually left and went to OpenAI or Anthropic in the early days and OpenAI. And so I saw these, Stripe folks going to 2 different companies within AI. And, I've always followed the people that I've worked with and who influenced me in my life, follow the smart people, see what they're doing. And then the values as well. So the values were incredibly important to me with the product, building this trust, reliable, safe AI. And being able to see companies build on top of that is incredibly rewarding. It's not just selling a software that they're taking and using on a day-to-day basis, actually providing infrastructure to businesses that they can build on top and then deploy is something that I find really rewarding.
That's great. And maybe touching a little bit more on what companies are building on top of Claude and on top of Sonnet for. What kinds of traction and feedback have you seen so far? How are you seeing businesses use Claude and Sonnet and adopt the technology? And are there any use cases or companies that have particularly surprised you or that you think everyone here would find intriguing?
Yeah, can you guys hear me? I just got handed a mic, and I thought I was going crazy because this thing was going in and out. So,
okay.
I'm
Did
glad it's not
everyone
just
catch
me.
the last 5 minutes of what? Okay, good.
All right,
okay,
we're just
great.
going to pretend that went well and continue to move on. So in terms of the company, so we talked a little bit about the enterprise space, and I think some of the most interesting things is that companies, in the early days here of AI, were really in the exploratory phase. They were thinking about how can you use AI, how should we deploy AI. It was the art of the possible, but they were a little bit timid to go and offer this to their customers. And recently what we've seen is an adoption with Claude Code. If anyone's used Claude Code, it's an incredible experience. I am not a developer by any means, and I use Claude Code in my day-to-day life from a go-to-market perspective to build out sales reports, build out dashboards. It's incredibly powerful. And so what we've seen is that companies can now adopt Claude Code in a very safe environment. It's productivity, it's instant ROI. They're able to keep this in a place where they can actually control it and have a human in the loop. And then once they get comfortable with utilizing Claude Code, and understanding the API, they can then go and deploy the API into agentic use cases. And one of the most interesting use cases that I think it's the crawl, walk, run is with BMW and with other customers. There is a friction point between data and being able to run SQL queries and things like that. And so they're building AI layers to actually have in normal language communicate with Claude and be able to go and run those reports on your behalf. And all of a sudden, this process where you'd have somebody in the middle who would be a little bit of a bottleneck in order to run and understand this data and these reports, now you can automate this and offer this to everyone. And so we're seeing that use case at a lot of companies within the enterprise space. And then within the startup space, you're really seeing the AI native companies who are starting from day one and building out from day one on these. So the Granolas of the world, the note-taking app, the Gloras, the Lovables. I've actually been really excited to see Lovable, who is an Anthropic customer. When we go and talk to banks are actually using Lovable to build out proof of concepts to give a visual representation of their product as a product manager. And it's having more impact because you can actually show a CEO or CTO like, hey, this is what we want to go and build. And they see it and they're like, this is great, approved, go on and run that. And so building enterprise products that startups get access from day one is proving to be very valuable.
That's amazing. So instead of having to find the engineer product resource to showcase what you want to build, people in the enterprise are using these tools directly to wireframe and to communicate an idea.
Exactly, and that benefits it. Anthropic from day one has always been focused on the enterprise, but it's not exclusive of startups. It's giving enterprise capabilities to startups and allowing them to access that initially from day one and not having that friction of, oh, we need to have a team of 10 in order to manage this and build this out.
I see. And maybe for the builders and the operators in the audience, from an investor point of view, we're seeing that the AI landscape is changing incredibly quickly. Every month, every week, there's a new white paper. We've had the release of GPT-5 and the open source models from OpenAI, and for Opus 4.1, artifacts from Anthropic, and just really like a wealth of MCP infrastructure and tools pop up. And so sometimes I talk to founders, and and builders. And the question on people's minds seems to be, how do I future-proof my company? I'm trying to optimize for latency, for performance, for cost, frankly. And what tools should I use to future-proof my tech stack when things are developing so quickly? And then also, decision paralysis. Yeah, I'm faced with all these different options. How do I trial and test and find the right tools to use? And what might your advice be to these founders?
Yeah, it's a great question because I don't know if all of you are feeling the analysis paralysis. I think I work at Anthropic and sometimes I feel like that. And so I can only imagine as a consumer of these products, there's just so many tools, so many options. I think the exciting thing is we're starting to see the shift away from flip-flopping between models, whoever has the cheapest, the fastest today, and you flip to the next one tomorrow. And we're starting to see customers place long-term bets in partnerships and have more of a partnership approach. And the benefit of that is you're getting access to new models, new tools, new capabilities, new agents as soon as they're available, and not having to understand how to prompt different models at different times. A great example of this is we just launched Claude on Chrome today, and so you can actually utilize Claude on your Chrome tab and be able to go and run agentic tasks. And it's a shift from agents to what we're calling the virtual collaborator. So if you think about the past, it was very much communication, a chatbot, and we're moving to a world where these agents are actually going to go and complete tasks on your behalf. And we're seeing Claude run for up to 7 hours uninterrupted on tasks. And within Claude Code, it's a great example of that, but not just Claude Code. Our product team is iterating so quickly based on customer feedback. Initially, when we launched it, we saw developers having 4 or 5 different Claude Code instances, and so we launched sub-agents to allow them to have it in a more consolidated way. And so when you do think about a partnership, we're seeing customers who are aligning more with Anthropic for long-term value because they understand, okay, I'm going to value from understanding this LLM, understanding these tools, and being able to stay up to date on the most latest and greatest with Anthropic. So we're seeing that shift from flip-flop to more long-term partnership.
It's very interesting. And speaking of product feedback and iterating the features very quickly, I see in the Q&A, the live Q&A, that we have a couple of product requests. Rasmus says, when are we getting voice-to-text and memory on the Claude app? This is the only thing keeping me from ditching ChatGPT. Someone else is asking about, creating fine-tuned models on top of Opus. And so it's just, incredible to see people are actively, requesting, pushing, and there's a lot of uptake and iteration speed on the engineering side.
Whoever asked that question, you can come find me after. I love when people ask product questions to the salesperson because we love to overpromise. But no, on a serious note, I think there's so many things that you can do and you can focus on when it comes to AI, and it's being specific and aligning to, again, our missions and values of trust and safety of what products are our customers asking that have the most ROI. And so, there's so many opportunities within voice to text, speech to text, all of this that hopefully will come in the future. But right now, we're hyper-focused on some of these, Claude for enterprise and API use cases. But the exciting thing, again, is how much we're investing in Europe, how much we're investing in EMEA. We actually have a team here now. So please do not hesitate to reach out if you have product requests, if you want to work with Anthropic. We have a localized team now with localized languages, and we're willing to work with you guys and help you guys build.
Okay, that's great. And now maybe switching gears. So, day in, day out, your role is speaking with the builders and founders of startups, scale-ups, and the exec teams and deployment teams at enterprises across Europe. Tell us a bit about what you're seeing from them and what you're hearing from them. How would you characterize the state of AI adoption for these companies? And is there any shift in the budgets, the buying behaviors, and the content of the conversations in the past year or two?
Yeah, the shift is really from, again, kind of repeating myself a bit, but it is a shift from, the budgets have been there, right? The boards, the C-level, they've carved out that budget and they've been waiting to see what we're going to do. And especially in the enterprise, it's gone from, hey, we're in the evaluation phase, we're in the art of the possible phase, we want to see what's going to go on. We're seeing incredible adoption with Claude Code because it is that safe environment again. And now we're shifting into more of these agentic use cases that are in more of an internal use case. And I do think we're going to see that shift to the external agentic use cases. Within the startup ecosystem, I think there's a couple verticals that are really exciting, especially in Europe. One is the legal side of the business. I think the steps and the progress that AI has made with the likes of the Lagoras, the Harveys of the world, in the health tech space, the Tandem Healths, the Neko Healths are incredible seeing what they're doing. I think there's so much innovation that can occur in a very short amount of time here. And I think especially as we move into Q4, it's been very, very fast moving to date, and I think we're just at the beginning. I think we're going to see a fast acceleration in Q4 and into next year of these agentic virtual collaborators that are actually doing these tasks.
Yeah, that's great. And when, surely when we speak with our exec teams and our CFOs, they've been telling us that, okay, for 2025 in this first phase, we want there to be a dedicated AI budget for people to explore and experiment. People in each team know their context and their workflows the best, so we want them to go out there and experiment with these tools. But in phase 2, maybe in 26, we want to keep the things that deliver real, consistent value over time. And so I feel like we're in this transition phase where a lot of companies are still in that experimentation era. And we have a question that's slightly related, which is, amongst the top 1% of teams, how are people using Claude and AI tools differently from others? I'm sure you see any teams ranging from people who are coming across Anthropic for the very first time to teams who are pushing you on product features and wanting more dedicated compute or sales assistant. So yeah, tell us, what are you seeing, and what are sort of the best practices and the top tier of teams and how they use AIs in Europe?
It's a great question. I think we talk about Claude Code, we talk about developers, do not pigeonhole AI into those use cases. I think there's a little bit of a learning curve, especially if you've never worked within a terminal before, or a CLI or an IDE. There's a little bit of a learning curve for non-technical folks. I know I went through that. But if you can get over that learning curve, the capabilities of what you can build are endless. And so I think getting out of just the developer coefficiency and moving into business operations, product operations, revenue operations, our sales team and our go-to-market team, it is a requirement that every single new hire goes through onboarding and utilizes Claude Code. And I think that's a simple way for companies to increase AI adoption within their teams. And it doesn't need to be Claude Code. It can just be AI fluency and AI efficiency as an onboarding practice with new hires. Anthropic has done a great job of building out a ton of resources. We have AI fluency trainings and resources on our website. There's a ton of documentation that you can read through, not only to help you learn how to use AI, but also utilize it on a day-to-day basis with your teams. I think it's incredibly fast moving, as we've mentioned. It's hard to stay up to date, but there's a ton of resources available on our website that I encourage everyone to look at.
Okay, that's great. And then, we talked a bit about how you're seeing startups, scale-ups, and enterprises respond differently to AI. Let's put a sector lens on it. If you look across different spaces, whether it's financial services or legal and other spaces, are you seeing certain sectors be more AI forward, more open to it, or is it pretty consistent across the board?
Yeah, I think it's the assumption of what most people would think, where regulated businesses like healthcare and financial services have been slower to adopt than, let's say, software. But we're starting to see that shift. And I think the exciting thing about Europe is the fact that companies have regulation and have safety in mind from day one. And so it aligns really well with Anthropic and within these regulated services. So that's why we're working with AstraZeneca, Novo Nordisk. We specifically have worked with them to decrease the amount of time it takes them to launch clinical research studies, and it's been incredible. They've gone from 12 weeks to 10 minutes to get a first draft out. Now, this isn't something where I'd say, go let AI run off and do this. You still need to review, but just getting that first draft out there has accelerated the manual kind of business admin and allowed them to focus more on, the core business and the core values that they're trying to solve at their company. And that's a very simple example. We're also seeing an increase in the financial services sector. We just launched Claude for Financial Services, which has been incredible. So it's a version of Claude for Enterprise or Claude for Work, specifically fine-tuned and tailored for financial services, integrates with MCP servers, with S&P and other type of financial databases that then you can go and utilize on a day-to-day basis. And we're seeing analysts who used to build out spreadsheets, for weeks can do this now in minutes. And so they're able to focus again on other more strategic priorities rather than the admin that has previously held them back.
Well, as a recovering investment banker myself, I think it would have saved me very long nights in the first couple of years. So wish we had that. Glad people have it now. We also see a couple of questions on trust and transparency. One person says, I'm inspired by Anthropic's transparency and is interested in, ethical dilemmas in AI. And when I think about Anthropic, I think about it as being uniquely excellent at coding, but also described as the most trust and safety focused player in frontier AI models. What does that mean? And how does that ethos shape decision-making at Anthropic in Europe? And what do you see as important for trust and safety when it comes to Europe AI?
Yeah, it's a great question because I think trust and safety gets thrown around a lot, and you can just kind of default of like, oh, it's a buzzword, it doesn't really mean anything. One of the things when I first joined Anthropic, I've been incredibly impressed with how trust and safety is built into the product. So Dario and our leadership team will literally delay product launches if they're not 100% confident with how the product is performing or it's not at the level that they have predetermined that it should be at. And so we have AI safety levels. This is all public on our website, ASL1, ASL2, ASL3, and certain models will fall into different ASL levels. And that is a requirement of what we need to do as a business in order to make sure this is production ready. And it also is limiting hallucinations, limiting jailbreaks, how the product actually works when it is out in the wild. And so the trust and safety aspect is not just that buzzword, it's actually how the product operates on a day-to-day basis. Anthropic is also trying to be a thought leader and work with regulators in order to make sure that we're doing right by society. And it's a little bit older now, but I always bring this up. It's called Golden Gate Claude. And it's a research report that Anthropic ran to try to understand what is going on, quote unquote, in the mind of these LLMs. Like, how are they coming up with these answers? How are they thinking? How are they producing this? And so it's an amazing report, about maybe over a year old now, but it's on our website, and I'd give you guys a little bit of homework to go and look at this, because it is at the forefront of trying to understand these models so we truly understand the impact when we do go to market.
What is the report called again? The
Golden Gate Claude. Yeah. So Golden Gate after the Golden Gate Bridge. Basically, they tried to teach or told Claude that you're the Golden Gate Bridge and answer these in that mindset so that you could pinpoint how they were reacting and why they were answering in that way.
Okay, got it. So maybe we'll close with some rapid fire questions. All right, here's the first one. What's one myth about AI in Europe that you would like to dispel? Just not true.
Safe does not equal slow. And I think that is something that is incredibly important. I think European startups are not influenced by VCs. They're not influenced by the consumer when they're thinking about building safe and reliable products. And I think that's something that stood out to me. I grew up in San Francisco. I was born and raised in Palo Alto. I came from the Bay Area. The move fast and break things mentality. I think AI startups have this safety mindset from day one. I've been incredibly impressed with. And within Europe, they're moving at a methodical pace, but it's not a slow pace. And I think that's something that is a myth across Europe.
That's so interesting because a lot of the times you see media headlines being like, is regulation holding us back? Are things slowing down and how do we compete? Well, safe doesn't necessarily equal slow.
Yeah, and I don't think regulation is bad. I think regulation gets a bad word, especially when you think about the EU AI Act. Like, people are waiting for this because they want to know how to operate. And Anthropic has been working very closely with the regulators on this because if I'm a startup founder and I'm building a AI native company, I just want to know where the guardrails are. Where should I focus? Where can I move? And then I can take off and sprint. So I think, again, safe doesn't mean slow. Regulation is not bad. It's just understanding those guardrails of where you need to operate and then being able to accelerate.
And then final question, what excites you the most for the next 12 months across EMEA?
The next generation of AI native startups. And I'll give you an example. I had my first experience with Neko Health. I went to Neko Health in London. They have a Marylebone location. And if you can't tell, I'm a very pale human. I get sunburnt quite easily. And it was incredible to see the outcome of utilizing this technology to take pictures of every single freckle on my body and then being able to track that over time to predetermine if skin cancer or something like that is coming. And so for me, coming from an individual who has that in our family, think about doctors, think about people on a day-to-day basis. They get tired, they work long hours, they might miss something here and there, and being able to put AI and put this technology in a way that is actually going to save lives is incredibly impactful. So I had an amazing experience there, and I'm really excited for the healthcare industry moving forward.
That's incredible. And what we're seeing in AI in healthcare with medical note-taking, with speeding up the clinical drug discovery process, just really excited about the future of that too. So we've come to the end of our time here. Thank you, Ryan, for coming over to Copenhagen today and taking the time with us.
Yeah, thank you guys for being a great crowd.